with Jimmy Fallon as well.
And she said, Kamala, what do you want? And I said, freedom.
Politics means compromise, sometimes to your roots. But has the first female vice president in U.S. history overshot? This is the shady side of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris's journey to political prominence initially began after she graduated from the University of California's Hastings College of Law with a JD in 1989. She famously attended Howard University for her undergrad degree. The future vice president took her first job as a deputy district attorney in Oakland, California in 1990, serving until 1998. But Harris's career may have started in earnest when in 1994 she met the powerful California politician and San Francisco mayor Willie Brown, who was, quote, a notorious womanizer, according to the San Francisco Weekly. Harris was 29, Brown 60, and married, although, according to the debunking website Snopes, he had been estranged from his wife for more than a decade. He was powerful in Bay Area politics, and the two began dating. Brown was also allegedly corrupt, his office under investigation by the FBI, and Harris eventually dumped her aging lover. Still, when she ran for district attorney in 2003, Brown put his weight behind her anyway. Harris won, but according to Politico, critics, including her opponents, were bemoaning cronyism at City Hall. Once in office, Harris threw Brown under the bus. The ambitious young politician declared her benefactor all but dead, saying, "His career is over. I will be alive and kicking for the next 40 years. I do not owe him a thing." Politico branded Harris as, quote, ruthless. Harris has been spinning a seemingly apocryphal childhood yarn for years that goes something like this. When she was a toddler in Oakland, California, she was separated from her parents at a march. Young Kamala was found, but fussing, and according to Harris's retelling in an interview with Elle, her mother asked her, "Baby, what do you want? What do you need?" And I just looked at her and I said, "Freedom." Harris told versions of this tale in her 2010 book Smart on Crime, as well as her 2019 book The Truths We Hold: An American Journey, according to the New York Post. She giggled her way through the anecdote on late-night TV with Jimmy Fallon as well.
And she said, Kamala, what do you want? And I said, freedom.
However, observers have pointed out a remarkable similarity to a story that Martin Luther King Jr. told Playboy during the Civil Rights era. In 1965, King recounted the story to Playboy, saying, "I will never forget a moment in Birmingham when a white policeman accosted a little Negro girl, 7 or 8 years old, who was walking in a demonstration with her mother. 'What do you want?' the policeman asked her gruffly, and the little girl looked at him straight in the eye and answered, 'Freedom.'" While the similarities in the stories can't be ignored, Snopes remains undecided on whether it's outright plagiarism, stating that Harris claims to have no direct memory of the incident, but rather has simply repeated a story told to her by her mother. Politicians love to pretend to be cooler than they are. Kamala Harris's Democratic successors did it too. Bill Clinton made his first big splash on the national scene in a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, blowing out a saxophone solo to Heartbreak Hotel on the Arsenio Hall show in 1992. But Clinton also claimed that while he'd tried marijuana, he didn't inhale. During Harris's run for executive privilege in 2019, the public's view of this stinky little weed had changed dramatically, and the then aspiring POTUS was endorsing legalization. Speaking on the Breakfast Club amid fits of laughter, she said,
"It was a long time ago." But yes.
I know you have to go. They say you have to go.
I just broke loose.
Harris claimed her experimentation was in college, and when one of the interviewers asked her who she listened to while high, she laughed again.
Definitely Snoop, Tupac, for sure.
Well, not for sure. According to Newsweek, critics quickly pointed out that Harris graduated from Howard University in 1986, 5 years before either rapper released a debut album. Her defenders claimed Harris was just confused by crosstalk and was actually answering a more general question about artists she likes. Harris's opponent in the Democratic primaries, Tulsi Gabbard, had a different and perhaps more important grievance with the segment, saying that Harris jailed over 1,500 people for marijuana violations and then laughed when asked if she ever smoked. During Harris's failed bid for the Democratic nomination in 2019, in which her much-hyped campaign collapsed before the first caucus, she offered up an ambitious plan to, quote, overhaul the criminal justice system, according to Politico. Her sweeping plan, the article said, called to end federal mandatory minimum prison sentences, do away with both the death penalty and solitary confinement, and to phase out for-profit prisons and cash bail. But Harris's top-of-the-ticket campaign may have imploded, in part due to her own previous stances on criminal criminal justice. According to The Week, Harris, quote, sometimes embraced her tough on crime record, but perhaps in light of the ascendant Black Lives Matter movement and the push to reallocate resources from the police to other social services, the former top cop, quote, seemed ashamed of her own tough record as DA and Attorney General. In one interview on ABC News in 2019, she said she protected the, quote, most vulnerable as a prosecutor.
A large part of my career as a courtroom prosecutor was handling cases that affected crimes against women and children.
Part of the criminal justice system Harris and activists now want changed is one that imprisons minorities at a disproportionate rate for minor drug offenses, according to a report by Human Rights Watch. But according to Mercury News, as Attorney General of California, Harris oversaw 1,900 convictions related to marijuana. She also, quote, fought to keep people in prison even after they were proved innocent, according to Vox, and further defended California's death penalty, all while refusing to look into, quote, certain police shootings. Her work as a prosecutor still haunts Harris politically, according to the Los Angeles Times. After all, no one put her in prison for smoking a joint. In 1998, a fight broke out in a parking lot in California's San Fernando Valley. Cops thought they saw a man, Daniel Larson, ditch a knife under a car. Larson protested his innocence, but also had 2 serious prior felony convictions, and under California's harsh 3 strikes policy, was sentenced to 28 years to life, according to The Atlantic. The Innocence Project eventually took up Larson's case. Turns out, Larson's trial lawyer bungled it badly. The lawyer's most egregious error was that he never had the knife processed for fingerprints. Sworn testimony from a retired cop also later showed Larson never had the knife. Another man did. Larson's attorney was later disbarred for his incompetence, and a judge ordered the state to retry Larson or let him go. Harris could have done just that. Instead, her office fought to keep Larson locked up on technical grounds because he hadn't filed his petition quickly enough. Larson spent 2 more years in prison battling Harris's office. Harris's team eventually lost its bid in appeals court to keep this innocent man behind bars, but that didn't stop her from blocking all financial compensation due to Larson for the wrongful conviction. In 2019, Larson, who spent over a decade in prison for a crime he didn't commit, never saw a dime, and, quote, now lives in a small garage and relies on welfare payments. Speaking of innocence, imagine being a poor family struggling with bills and truant kids in the tougher corners of sunny but expensive California. Then imagine Attorney General Kamala Harris tossing you in jail on top of it. That happened. Then she lied about doing it. In a 2010 speech, Harris talked about prosecuting parents for truancy.
And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime.
She doubled down in 2011 during her inaugural address as California DA, saying, so we are putting parents on notice. If you fail in your responsibility to your kids, we are going to work to make sure you face the full force and consequences of the law. Harris admits she personally prosecuted 20 families under this policy, according to the Washington Post, but has repeatedly denied anyone went to jail. But that's not exactly true. While no one in San Francisco went to jail for their child's truancy while Harris was district attorney, she pushed for her anti-truancy policy to go statewide, which it did in 2011. The law called for up to a $2,000 fine and a year in prison for parents of kids who missed more than 10% of school days with no excuse. Dozens of families were charged under this law, and though records aren't thorough, at least 7 parents went to jail under Harris's initiative. Her, quote, careful claims to the contrary were given 2 Pinocchios by the Washington Post. There is a deviously effective technique in the debate world called the Gish Gallop. It's when you spew so many falsehoods in such rapid succession that your interlocutor is put in the difficult position of either rebutting you endlessly or actually getting to their point. In Kamala Harris's 2020 vice presidential debate with Mike Pence, a question came on the topic of delaying Supreme Court justice nominations until after an election. Democrats favored this at the time, so Harris invented a, quote, unsubstantiated reasoning, according to factcheck.org, and ironically attributed it to Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln faced a similar nomination close to his own election, claimed Harris, adding, but Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. Historians told the outlet that there's speculation to Lincoln's motive, but that probably wasn't it, and there is no record of Lincoln saying what Harris described. Harris, it seems, sometimes has a complicated relationship with the truth. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nikki Swift videos about your favorite public figures are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.
Unsuccessful. Univision anchor Elia Calderon reportedly asked Vice President Kamala Harris.
Hi, whatever you want, you crazy cat dog.
Address the migrant crisis.
We got it.
But according to the Daily Mail,
Somebody
the visit was widely
say
used as
just